Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 10 Part 36 based on novel. So let's start. In the next instant, the liquidized black lightning hand penetrated the demonic aura and slammed heavily against the defense formed by layers of flower petals. Waves of white smoke erupted from the black flower petals the moment the both of them came into contact. Faintly, it seemed as though there were sharp cries being emitted. The flower petals, which could block the attack from a samsara stage expert, actually began to melt rapidly. There was indeed quite a huge gap between Lin Dong's strength and that of a samsara stage expert. Fortunately, he possessed two great ancestral symbols and they were exceptionally powerful against the strength of the Yimo. Hence, even Hao Jiryo was shocked when he saw his defenses collapsing so rapidly. "You?" Hao Jiryo's furious and alarmed voice sounded from behind his heavily fortified defenses. Soon after, the black flower began to shake violently. After which, countless black vines penetrated the air and ruthlessly shot towards Lin Dong in an attempt to stop him. A glint flashed across Lin Dong's eyes when he detected those attacks that were whistling over from all directions. However, he displayed no intention of dodging. Instead, a jade-color glow began to flicker over the surface of his body. Those sharp black vines shot violently towards Lin Dong's body. Though most of them were deflected, there were still some vines which managed to break through Lin Dong's defenses and penetrate his body. Intense pain spread all over Lin Dong's body. Meanwhile, a scarlet tinge also surged within his black eyes. Nonetheless, even though various parts of his body were penetrated by those black vines, they did not manage to hit the fatal points on his body. Of course, if Lin Dong allowed Hao Jiryo to continue attacking, it was likely that he would not be able to endure despite his formidable physical body. Let's see which one of us can endure until the end. A ruthless glint flashed across Lin Dong's eyes, before black lightning glow suddenly surged. The two faintly visible ancient symbols present on his liquidized palm also unleashed a dazzling glow. Die? A low and deep roar, which was packed with killing intent, was emitted from Lin Dong's throat. He clenched his hand before all the strength within his body gushed through his fist. Bang! A black lightning glow suddenly shot out from Lin Dong's liquidized fist. It heavily smashed against the black flower petals before they disintegrated almost instantly. Hao Jiryo's miserable cry was emitted from deep within the flower, after he was hit by that black lightning glow, which was filled with ancient symbols. Right now, there were numerous cracks on that huge black flower. Those vines dancing in the sky also began to wither rapidly. Within 10 breaths' time, that black flower, which was filled with an evil aura, simply vanished in front of many bewildered onlookers. With dust dancing in the sky, the heavy flower petals' defense in front of Lin Dong also turned into dust and scattered off. Hao Jiryo's body once again appeared. However, he currently wore a pale and shocked expression. Moreover, there was a bloody hole on his chest, while blood continuously flowed out from within. Clearly, it was caused by Lin Dong's final attack. You? Hao Jiryo's expression was venomous as he stared at Lin Dong, whose body was riddled with bloody holes. Meanwhile, his eyes still contained a look of disbelief. After all, never did he imagine that Lin Dong was actually able to break his final defense. It seems like the person who is going to have the last laugh is not going to be you. Lin Dong coughed violently before he casually wiped off the blood on the corner of his lips. His black eyes were calm as he looked at Hao Jiryo. Meanwhile, his expression caused the latter's body to turn cold. You lunatic. Hao Jiryo gritted his teeth and said. Lin Dong had basically staked his life in this fight. If any slight mishap occurred, it was likely that the result of this fight would be completely different. I'm used to hearing that. Lin Dong smiled. Most of the opponents that he encountered were typically far stronger than he was. Hence, if he did not ruthlessly go all out, it was likely that he would not have reached where he was today. I'll kill you. The corner of Hao Jiryo's mouth twitched. His face was distorted while his eyes were filled with a brutal murderous intent. Although he had suffered serious injuries, he was still an ultimate samsara stage expert. Even though Lin Dong was able to rely on various techniques to fight equally with him, it was difficult for the former to kill him. This was despite the fact that Lindong had two great ancestral symbols. However, the black light pillars, which were shooting out from the 69 mountaintops, disappeared simultaneously just as the furious Hao Jiuyou was about to kill the exhausted Lindong. After the black light pillars disappeared, the black hallucination fragrance, which enveloped the entire place, began to dissipate at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was a sign that the formation was broken. When Lindong saw that the hallucination fragrance was vanishing, he solemnly heaved a sigh of relief. They had finally managed to break this darn formation. You bastards! Hao Jiuyou's expression involuntarily turned much paler after he saw that his formation was broken. He let out a roar before he leapt towards Lindong and directed a formidable wind slash towards his throat. However, a hurried rushing wind sound suddenly appeared just as Hao Jiuyou was about to strike Lindong's body. Immediately, a phantom-like figure showed up in front of Lindong, before he threw a palm forward and clashed with Hao Jiuyou. Bang! A wild and violent wind swept forth, before Hao Jiuyou flew backwards in a miserable fashion. Since his body was already riddled with injuries, he immediately vomited a mouthful of blood. Lifting his head, he proceeded to stare venomously at that tall figure, who had appeared in front of Lindong. Are you all right? Little Martin stood in front of Lindong. His eyes drifted towards the terribly injured Lindong, before the corner of his eyes twitched as he asked. I'm fine, I'll make it. Lindong shook his head. Fortunately, he possessed the primal dragon bone. Otherwise, he would not dare to act so recklessly. That was because he might truly be unable to endure even before he could kill his enemy. Little Martin secretly sighed in relief when he saw that Lindong was still conscious despite suffering serious injuries. After which, his expression turned cold as he stared at Hao Jiuyou, whose expression was currently in flux, and asked, "What more do you have to say now?" "Humph, consider yourselves lucky. However, I'll not be taking this lying down." Hao Jiuyou gave a cold chuckle. After which, monstrous demonic aura swept out from within his body as he attempted to escape. You actually believe that you can escape? Little Martin chuckled and shook his head upon seeing this. Waving his hand, more than 100 light pillars instantly came whistling over. These light pillars entwined around each other to form a light net that completely covered Hao Jiuyou. Bang bang! Hao Jiuyou struggled wildly within that huge net. However, it was to no avail. Those tribe elites, who had previously went to remove the eternal illusion demon flowers, were all freed from their task. Therefore, there were more than 100 experts attacking in unison. With Hao Jiuyou's current condition, as well as the fact that he had lost support from his formation, how is it possible for him to escape? Lock him up. We will deal with him later. Little Martin glanced at the raging Hao Jiuyou before he said. Understood. Those powerful individuals cupped their hands and accepted his order. Then, they directly dragged Hao Jiuyou onto the ground and began to seal the latter's yuan power. When he finished instructing them, Little Martin finally turned around. As he looked at Lindong, a strange expression surfaced on his handsome face. After only a few months' time, I never expected you to become so powerful. Little Martin was well aware of Hao Jiuyou's strength, and even he would have difficulties pushing the latter until such an extent. Yet, Lindong managed to seriously injure Hao Jiuyou with just the strength of advanced profound death stage. This was truly an astounding fact. You can hardly match up to me when it comes to dealing with the Yimo. Lindong laughed. The proud Little Martin nodded, and he did not raise any objections. He was indeed no match for the current Lindong when it came to dealing with the Yimo. Thank you very much this time around. Little Martin's eyes shifted away from Lindong's body. He hesitated for a moment before he said. Such words are unnecessary. Lindong smiled as he shook his head. Little Martin was speechless. After which, he laughed involuntarily. There was indeed no need for such courteous words between the both of them. An ordinary person might have difficulties understanding their relationship, but they were well aware of how a weak and tender youth, together with a frail demonic spirit which could vanish at any moment, had carefully survived and protected each other along the way, as they slowly became stronger. They were brothers. We should activate the tribe guarding formation. Little Martin looked at the two fights in the sky and said, "The leader of the celestial demon Martin tribe and first elder Zhu Li were unable to defeat the two Yimo kings. However, with help from the celestial demon Martin tribe's tribe guarding formation, those two Yimo kings would naturally be no match for them. There is no need to. Those two Yimo kings have already realized what is going on and they will not continue to fight." Lin Dong shook his head. The energy storm, which continuously erupted in the sky, also gradually weakened after he spoke. Soon after, two black figures shot backwards before they gathered together. That useless person! When the Heaven Illusion King duo saw the broken formation, as well as the experts from the celestial demon Martin tribe who were all ready to strike, their expressions involuntarily became ugly. Not only had they brought forward their plans this time around, they had also wasted a large number of eternal illusion demon flowers. This was quite a severe loss. "It looks like your plan is going to fail." The celestial demon Martin tribe leader looked at the two Yimo kings before he smiled faintly and said, "Ha ha, it is too early for you to be celebrating. If not because of that trash this time around, I'm afraid that your celestial demon Martin tribe would not have escaped easily. Oh well, it doesn't matter. We will let your celestial demon Martin tribe live for a while longer." The Heaven Illusion King looked at the tribe leader of the celestial demon Martin tribe, before a strange smile slowly lifted on the corner of his lips. "However, it's too early for you guys to be celebrating. We will return, and at that time, I'm afraid that no one will be able to rescue all of you. Ha ha, in the next Great World War, my Yimo tribe will show no mercy. Everything in this world shall be ruled by us, the Yimo tribe." A black swirl formed behind the Heaven Illusion King duo. After which, their bodies also began to disappear within it a little at a time. Only their dense laughter continued to echo across this place, causing everyone's heart to sink. Lin Dong looked at the spot where the two Yimo kings had disappeared, before he clenched his hand involuntarily. The Devil Prison's techniques were truly incredible. In fact, it was impossible to tell just how many factions, beside the celestial demon Martin tribe, were invaded by them over all these years. Would the world have any chance of emerging victorious if another world war occurs? The crisis facing the celestial demon Martin tribe was finally over after the two Yimo kings left. Nonetheless, this matter had clearly caused a huge commotion within the tribe. As a result, the security of the entire celestial demon Martin tribe also became extremely tight. Some of the elites of the celestial demon Martin tribe even formed small investigation units to comb the area within a 500-kilometer radius of their tribe. Following which, anything that came into contact with the demonic aura was completely exterminated. Clearly, they were greatly shocked by the eternal illusion demon flower seeds that were buried in the mountains. After all, this crisis had almost severely damaged their celestial demon Martin tribe. After a couple of days' time, the top experts from the celestial demon Martin tribe, who were undergoing a cultivation seclusion in the heavenly cave, all began to awaken. Then, they were all shocked and terrified when they learnt about the crisis, as well as the trap placed in the heavenly cave. After all, if not for Lin Dong, it was likely that most of them would have died. The upper echelon of the celestial demon Martin tribe were undoubtedly extremely furious over this matter. Hence, it was likely that things would not end well for Hao Jiuyo. However, Lin Dong did not care about this. As he sustained terrible internal injuries, he had to recuperate for a total of 10 days in the celestial demon Martin tribe before he was able to return to his usual form. Lin Dong clearly played an important role during this crisis. If he had not snuck into the heavenly cave and rescued the celestial demon Martin tribe leader, and if he had not risked his life to delay Hao Jiuyo after no one else in the entire celestial demon Martin tribe was available after being trapped by the eternal illusion demon flowers, it was likely that the celestial demon Martin tribe would have suffered great deaths and huge losses. It was precisely because of this that Lin Dong was able to sense the gratitude and admiration in the eyes of the celestial demon Martin tribe members while he was recuperating within the tribe. The celestial demon Martin tribe members were typically proud and arrogant individuals. This was something that one could tell by using little Martin as an example. Hence, it was no easy task for someone, especially a human, to earn their respect. Of course, this was not merely limited to ordinary tribe members. In fact, even those top experts, who were in a cultivation seclusion within the heavenly cave, felt grateful towards him after they learned that he had snuck into the heavenly cave and helped them to remove the eternal illusion demon flowers. As a result, over the next few days, Lin Dong slowly became irritated with their stares. Hence, he eventually chose to seclude himself and recuperate, in order to regain some peace. With the flow of time, the tense atmosphere within the celestial demon Martin tribe also began to relax as an increasing number of top experts left their seclusion. After all, the reason why the celestial demon Martin tribe was forced into such a sorry state was because the tribe temporarily lacked powerful individuals. Moreover, with the spy Hao Jiao helping them from the inside, it allowed the Yimo to take advantage of them. Nonetheless, having suffered such a huge loss, the celestial demon Martin tribe would definitely not make the same mistake again. After the celestial demon Martin tribe got serious, the foundation that was only possessed by the 4 overlord tribes was completely displayed. If the Heaven Illusion King duo were to attack again, it was likely that they would only end up suffering. Lin Dong finally made a complete recovery as the atmosphere within the celestial demon Martin tribe gradually began to relax. Lin Dong sat on the edge of a cliff, in front of a quiet bamboo house located on a mountaintop. If one was to look down from this place, it would be possible for one to see the entire celestial demon Martin tribe. At this moment, not only was the tribe guarding formation activated, but there were also many powerful guards frequently patrolling the sky. However, when those guards saw Lin Dong, who was seated at the edge of the cliff, they would slow down and smilingly cup their hands towards him, before they left. As he stared at the departing guards, Lin Dong smiled as well. Then, he stretched his lazy waist before he looked at the azure sky. Even up till now, the intense battle that took place 10 days ago was still playing in his mind. Despite having risked it all, I am still unable to kill a genuine samsara stage expert. Lin Dong lowered his head and looked at his somewhat fair and long hands. Then, he helplessly curled his lips. He had basically unleashed every technique in the fight against Hao Jiao. Nonetheless, he was still unable to kill the latter. This caused him to secretly sigh. It seems like there was truly a huge gap between Profound Death Stage and Samsara Stage. As of now, he was able to pose a threat to a Samsara Stage expert. However, he would have difficulties gaining the upper hand if they were to engage in a life and death battle. Moreover, he could not allow the fight to drag on because of his limited strength. That was his fatal weakness. Hence, increasing his own strength was still the best option. If it is Yuan power, it will still be difficult to make up for this huge gap even if I advance to the perfect Profound Death Stage. Therefore, I can only turn to mental energy. Lin Dong muttered to himself. Currently, Lin Dong was at the peak of the advanced Profound Death Stage and he was only one step away from the perfect Profound Death Stage. However, even if he managed to make this step, it would not grant him the ability to kill a Samsara Stage expert. Fortunately, Lin Dong still had another path to choose from. It was mental energy. His mental energy cultivation was presently at the peak of the advanced Divine Symbol Master level and his mental energy could match up to a peak perfect Profound Death Stage expert. If he took another step, he would reach the legendary symbol grandmaster level. This was a watershed level for mental energy practitioners. Once one stepped into this level, the might of one's mental energy would be completely on display. At that time, the power displayed by a symbol grandmaster will definitely exceed that of an ordinary samsara stage expert. If Lin Dong wanted to match up to a samsara stage expert in a short period of time, he could only do so by strengthening his mental energy. In order to advance to the symbol grandmaster level, the eternal illusion demon flowers are critical, Lin Dong softly said. Hey, the things that you want are here. A familiar laughter was transmitted from behind just as Lin Dong's voice sounded. He turned around and saw little Martin, who had unknowingly appeared behind him. Little Martin waved his sleeve before many jade boxes flew forth. After which, they landed heavily on the ground. Those jade boxes were all covered with mysterious symbols. Clearly, it was to seal the items within. These are the eternal illusion demon flowers that you asked for. There are a total of 69 of them. Must you use these dangerous items for your training? You should also be aware of just how terrifying these creatures are, and even my father could not handle them. You, little Martin frowned. Although the eternal illusion demon flowers have all been sealed, his eyes still contained great fear when he looked at those jade boxes. Relax, I won't do anything foolish. Lindong smiled. After which, he looked at the 69 jade boxes with joyous eyes. Then, he clenched his hand before the ancestor stone appeared. It flickered before it sucked all of them. I told Father that you are going to use these eternal illusion demon flowers for your training. He has asked you to go to the heavenly cave to seclude yourself. Moreover, he will personally lead some elders and stand guard for you. If any mishaps occur, he will intervene and rescue you. Little Martin said. In that case, please help me to thank the tribe leader. Though Lindong was startled, he did not reject the offer. Although Yang didn't specify, Lindong felt that it was definitely going to be fraught with danger to use the eternal illusion demon flowers to achieve a breakthrough in his mental energy cultivation. Therefore, if the tribe leader of the celestial demon Martin tribe was willing to assist him, it would be an additional form of insurance for him. You have done a huge favor for our celestial demon Martin tribe, and everyone in the tribe is grateful towards you. This little favor is hardly worth mentioning. Little Martin waved his hand and said, when do you plan to undergo a cultivation seclusion? Right now. Lindong mused for a moment before he replied. I knew it. Little Martin smiled as he was not surprised by Lindong's answer. Instead, all he did was to nod his head before he said, I will take you to the heavenly cave. There is no need for you to worry about anything during your seclusion. I know that you and Little Flame have united the Beast War region and established the Four Titans Palace. Relax, I will dispatch some members to help him to keep everything in check. It is likely that no one will dare to come and create trouble. Lindong nodded before he clenched the ancestor stone tightly. This subsequent act would determine whether he could advance into the symbol grandmaster level. After making up his mind, Lindong did not wait any longer. Both of them directly hurried to the deepest part of the celestial demon Martin tribe. Over a dozen minutes later, they appeared outside of the heavenly cave. Currently, the security in this place had become even tighter. Moreover, Lindong also saw the tribe leader of the celestial demon Martin tribe as well as First Elder Shu Li waiting over there. Young friend Lindong, we have thoroughly combed the heavenly cave and there are definitely no hidden threats within. You can undergo a cultivation seclusion with a peace of mind. The celestial demon Martin tribe leader smilingly said when he saw Lindong. I will have to trouble you, tribe leader. Lindong cupped his hands together and laughed. It's fine. I will let little Martin take you in. We will be standing guard outside. The leader of the celestial demon Martin tribe waved his large hand and said. Lindong nodded. Without further ado, he exchanged glances with little Martin before they directly rushed into the heavenly cave. This young friend Lindong is indeed extraordinary. Not only does he possess the ancestor stone, which is ranked second on the ancient divine object ranking, but he also possessed the primal dragon bone. That is something that was only possessed by the fearsome legendary person, who had once unified the entire demonic beast world. Shu Li looked at Lindong, who had disappeared into the heavenly cave, before he involuntarily praised. It seems like Jiao has found an extremely good brother. The leader of the celestial demon Martin tribe nodded. Promptly, he narrowed his eyes before he said, however, he is actually planning to use the eternal illusion demon flowers to break into the symbol grandmaster level. That is something unheard of. Observe him carefully. He has done a huge favor for our celestial demon Martin tribe and our reputation will be completely lost if anything happens to him here. Ha ha, tribe leader, please be rest assured. I have already informed the person in the deepest part of the cave and he will watch over Lindong. Shu Li smilingly said. The tribe leader of the celestial demon Martin tribe sighed in relief upon hearing this. After which, he waved his hand before the experts from the celestial demon Martin tribe scattered off and surrounded the cave, ensuring that nothing could get by them. In a quiet cave within the heavenly cave, Lindong looked at the light curtain rising over the entrance of the cave, before he deeply inhaled a breath of air. That air was filled with the scent of sandalwood. After which, he clenched his hand before the ancestor stone appeared. Soon after, his low voice echoed across the cave. Yang, let's begin. After Lin Dong's deep voice sounded, a warm light shot out from within his body. After which, it transformed into the ancestor stone, which was suspended in midair. Yang's figure also rose from the surface of the stone. Have you made up your mind? Yang looked at Lin Dong, who was seated on a stone platform, before he asked. Can I still back down now? Lin Dong laughed. However, there was not a trace of fear within his smile. Over the years, he had experienced all kinds of danger. If he had chosen to back down, it was likely that he would not be qualified to reach where he was today. With a look of admiration, Yang nodded. Then, he waved his sleeve before many rays of light shot out from within. Finally, the light rays scattered across the cave, before many eternal illusion demon flowers appeared. Although those flowers were still sealed, as a large number of them had appeared simultaneously, it caused a dark scent to linger over the place, sending a shiver down one's spine. There are a total of 84 eternal illusion demon flowers here. You should know how powerful these creatures are. With so many of them gathered together, the hallucination formed by them can even trap a peak samsara stage expert until he dies. There was a rarely seen solemn glint appearing in his eyes. Understood. Lin Dong nodded. Back then, just 3 eternal illusion demon flowers alone could trap the tribe leader of the celestial demon Martin tribe. Hence, he clearly knew just how frightening these creatures were. I will use the strength of the ancestor stone to purify the demonic nature of the eternal illusion demon flowers. After which, I will use their strength to construct purgatory. Purgatory? Lin Dong's heart tensed when he heard that name. That is a place specifically used to train one's mental energy. It was created by my owner in the past. Unfortunately, the purgatory that he created has already vanished. Hence, I will need to borrow the strength of the eternal illusion demon flowers in order to recreate it. If you can pass the trial within purgatory, you should be able to reach the symbol grandmaster level. What are the passing requirements? Lin Dong frowned. I do not know. Yang spread his hands and said in a faint voice, you will have to look for the answers yourself. Lin Dong was speechless. Moreover, I can only rely on the strength of the eternal illusion demon flowers to construct purgatory, but I cannot enter it. Once you are inside, you will undergo an extremely painful and bitter training. Moreover, you will be completely isolated from the outside world and even I cannot assist you. In that place, the only person you can rely on is yourself. Yang stared intently at Lin Dong, before he said in a low and deep voice, do not think that the dream world is merely an illusion. If you are unable to clear purgatory, you will be stuck there forever until your mental energy body is completely shriveled up. After which, you shall also vanish from this world. Do you still wish to continue? Lin Dong clenched his fist tightly. He gently but firmly nodded. Ha ha, very well. Yang gave a satisfied smile. Without further ado, he pressed his finger on the empty air. Following which, the many glowing symbols on the eternal illusion demon flowers gradually disappeared. After the symbols completely disappeared, the air within the entire cave seemed to have solidified. An unusual sound was stealthily emitted. After which, just like a devil that was set loose, Lin Dong saw waves of dense black hallucination fragrance crazily gushing forth before they whistled across the cave. As there were far too many eternal illusion demon flowers here, the density of the hallucination fragrance was as thick as ink. Hence, if a samsara stage expert was to barge in now, the potent scent would definitely end up killing him. Warm white light shone on Lin Dong's body, isolating the hallucination fragrance, which was now as thick as ink. Meanwhile, Yang stood 3 feet away from him and no hallucination fragrance was present around him. The hallucination fragrance will begin to invade your body soon. The light around you will purify the demonic aura within. However, you will still fall into a hallucination and everything else will depend on you. Yang said in a grave voice. Lin Dong nodded slowly. He inhaled a deep breath of air and slowly calmed the ripples stirred within his heart. Following which, he saw that the warm light barrier surrounding him was gradually turning dim. Immediately, the surrounding black ink-like hallucination fragrance gushed towards him, just like a menacing devil that had just climbed up from the depths of hell. "Come. Let me see just how powerful you are." Lindong slowly shut his eyes. There was an excited and heated expression flashing across his face as he did so. Finally, the black hallucination fragrance gushed into the light barrier and swarmed Lindong's entire body. All sound instantly vanished. Standing beside him, Yang stood by quietly as he stared at Lindong, who had sank into silence. Then, he released a deep breath and muttered to himself, "Now, it's truly all up to you." Soon after the black hallucination fragrance drowned Lindong, the latter began to feel his mind descending into darkness. The darkness was devoid of sound, and it was a long while later, before the darkness gradually disappeared. After which, glaring sunlight poured down from the sky, causing Lindong's eyes to narrow involuntarily. Lindong's hand touched the ground and grabbed it, catching hold of some extremely hot sand. He narrowed his eyes and observed his surroundings. Everything was yellowish and there were hardly any additional colors. Heat rose within this place and it appeared just like a boiling furnace. Meanwhile, he was just like a grasshopper within a furnace. It appeared to be a desert. "Is this purgatory?" Lindong knitted his brow and stood up. Then, he gently patted the hot sand in his hands before he instinctively began to activate the Yuan power in his body. However, his body quickly stiffened. That was because he realized that the Yuan power within his body had disappeared. "I can't even use Yuan power." Lindong frowned. He probed his current body and realized that he did not have anything now. He neither had his powerful Yuan power, nor his formidable physical body, nor his overflowing mental energy. The only thing that he had was this extremely weak body, which was what he had when he first started training at Qingyang Town. Lindong was speechless as he lifted his head. The bright sun in the sky was just like a blazing flame, and the heat caused his entire body to feel boiling hot. Meanwhile, the sand under his feet also gradually caused his feet to experience piercing pain. With his weakened body, how long could he last in a place like this? My current body should have been forged from my mental energy. However, isn't it a little too weak? Additionally, isn't this purgatory far too quiet? Lindong lifted his head to look into the distance, before his expression quickly changed. That was because he saw a huge tornado rolling over from afar, while being accompanied by monstrous yellow sand. It came so quickly. Lindong involuntarily cursed upon seeing this. Immediately, he took off running. After all, he knew that with his current body, he would be ripped into pieces if he was caught by that storm. However, it seems like that storm was actually chasing after him. Hence, his attempt at fleeing was in vain. Instead, he had only ran for a short distance, before the storm, which was accompanied by hot lava-like sand, violently lashed against his body like a whip. Bang! A low and deep sound appeared before Lindong was sent flying. A terrible pain began to radiate from his shoulder. He turned around and took a look. Blood was currently flowing on his back. Meanwhile, there was a hideous wound that stretched from his shoulder all the way until his waist. That really hurts. Lindong's body trembled. That terrible pain was even more intense than actual physical pain. In fact, it seemed as though that sand whip had forcefully ripped his body into two. Big droplets of perspiration dripped from Lindong's forehead. After which, he lifted his head. His eyes shrunk immediately when he saw that the storm was about to hit him again. Meanwhile, there were over a dozen large sand whips dancing within the storm before they crazily lashed at him. Lindong rolled away in a miserable fashion. Two sand whips violently lashed against the ground, causing it to tremble as a result. Bang bang bang. However, with the dexterity of his current body, it was clear that Lindong could not dodge all the attacks. In the next instant, a couple of sand whips violently lashed against his body. Lindong's body was directly knocked onto the sand by those ferocious whips. In fact, half of his body was covered with blood. Meanwhile, that indescribable intense pain immediately caused a blood-red tinge to surge into his eyes. He finally understood why this place was called Purgatory. That was because this place was truly going to whip one to death. Bang bang bang. That raging storm did not give Lindong any time to think. It raged before many sand whips swung violently. After which, they landed on his blooded body, which had already sunk into the sand. The clear sound of sand whips landing on Lindong's body continued to reverberate across the desert. Initially, the human figure stuck in the sand would still struggle. However, he ceased moving after a while, and it was as though he had lost all vitality. The raging storm continued for half a day before it gradually faded. 2 hours after it left, a blood-covered hand finally extended from the sand while it trembled. Then, a blooded blurry figure climbed out from the ground with great difficulty. Lindong's vision was blurry. He continuously panted while a trace of fear continued to linger on his blood-covered face. He finally understood just how terrifying purgatory was. Moreover, he was also well aware that even though this was merely a hallucination, if he lost consciousness in this dreamland, it was likely that he would die. Lindong laid on the sand. He could sense that the intense pain on his body was diminishing a little at a time. Moreover, his weakened body seemed to have become a little stronger as the pain dissipated. This discovery caused Lindong to feel a slight joy in his heart. In that case, after he rested for a while longer, it was likely going to be easier for him to endure that lashing. This thought had just flashed across Lindong's mind, when he suddenly realized that his surrounding temperature had gone down. After which, he slowly lifted his head. Then, he could see that the cold wind in midair had actually transformed into numerous sharp wind blades, which covered the sky. No way! Lindong, who was still in pain, shuddered violently upon seeing this scene. However, reality did not provide Lindong with any chances. His voice had just sounded, when the wind blades came raining down from all directions, completely burying Lindong in the process. Sharp and miserable cries once again sounded. This video will end here.